How's it going, everyone? My name is TheStarkz and welcome back to another The Last of Us Part 2 video. Well, apparently, The Last of Us Part 2 is coming to PlayStation 5. On the website provided by Insider Gaming, they state The Last of Us Part 2 is coming to the PlayStation 5 according to a reputable data miner and leaker. That's according to reputable PlayStation database data miner at PlayStationSize, who recently tweeted a fairly vague tweet. Insider Gaming, the website that I'm referring to in this article, reached out to at PlayStationSize privately, who confirmed that the tweet refers to The Last of Us Part 2 as a native version being added to the PlayStation database. The tweet states PS5 with a check mark and The Last of Us Part 2 image. This was posted around 2 a.m. November 17th, 2023. The article goes on to say, when speaking with its sources, Insider Gaming was able to independently verify the claim. It's unclear when the news will be announced, but with the Game Awards just a few weeks away and to take place on December 8th, it might not be long until an announcement is official. Now, the article goes on to talk about the accolades that The Last of Us Part 2 received and the critical acclaim as well as when it was released and all that. But for all those that are watching, I'm sure you guys already know that The Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year and it was released in 2020, and it was critically acclaimed, but a lot of fans, a lot of people really negatively reviewed the game, especially on Metacritic, because of some narrative choices that Naughty Dog did. Now, I have my own review of The Last of Us Part 2 on my channel if you're interested in watching, which I'll leave in the description below if you'd like to watch that. But we're not going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 and its story too much in depth here. We're going to talk about this apparent leak or rumor. It's a little bit more than a rumor now. I feel like this is literally just a leak, and this is most likely going to happen. Now, the article is provided by Tom Henderson, who I've referenced in the past before, especially on Twitter. I've used him in several of my videos, and so I think this claim is really possible that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to release, as a native version on the PlayStation 5 database, or hardware, sorry. And what's interesting about this is I've been denying that this was in existence for months now. And it's funny because I have a friend who always says, Starkz, it's happening. The Last of Us Part 2 is going to release on PlayStation 5. And with that said, a lot of people, especially in the Last of Us factions community, including myself, are speculating that if this is true, could it be possible that Naughty Dog will release some form of factions mode with the PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us Part 2. That's really just speculation. I mean, until Naughty Dog goes out and says, listen, it's confirmed, we are working on a version for PlayStation 5, almost like a remaster for the PlayStation 5 hardware, because obviously The Last of Us Part 2 released on PlayStation 4. And so this trend is really common with PlayStation, but in particular Naughty Dog, where they remaster a lot of their games. Now they have a remake, and I understand Naughty Dog has this perfect vision to have a seamless experience with their Last of Us, right? The Last of Us, I guess according to Neil, released in this state where, yeah, it was great, but after creating The Last of Us Part 2, there was huge major overhauls, not only in the gameplay, but the graphical fidelity. I mean, if you look at The Last of Us, the first game that released on PlayStation 3 several console cycles ago, the gameplay is completely different, and so is the graphical the graphical display. I mean, obviously, it came out in 2013. 7 years later, in 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 would release, and it was breathtaking. I mean, the visuals are just amazing. The motion capture and the performance and the music and the editing and everything, including the gameplay, really went on to make this, in my opinion, this perfect, harrowing masterpiece. With that said, though, The Last of Us was something that Naughty Dog revisited to remaster on the PlayStation 5 hardware. Now, I said this for months or weeks, I guess. I can't remember when I bought it, but I said I wasn't going to buy The Last of Us Part 1 for the PlayStation 5, and then I ended up doing that anyways. I think there was a sale, and I said, why not? I love Naughty Dog. I love supporting their games. But this is how they get you, right? And I'm not a huge fan of Naughty Dog taking this route of just remastering and remaking their games. I think there needs to be a new IP sooner or later. Last of Us is great. Uncharted is great, but they need to move on from these IPs and make something different. That said, though, it will be interesting to see because obviously you have PlayStation 5, that hardware, this is the current generation, and you have a version of which is The Last of Us Part 1, which released last year, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it released in 2022. on the PlayStation 5 as this like revitalized overhaul of the gameplay and the visuals to really make it a seamless transition to those that come on to the PlayStation hardware after watching the TV show, and they want it to be the seamless experience where the gameplay difference isn't night and day, because obviously if you play the PlayStation, or I guess PlayStation 4 remastered version, the gameplay is completely different from The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, the core mechanics are there and it's evident, but there's a lot that's changed, and there's a lot of different gameplay iterations that gamers that might come from watching the show who play The Last of Us Remastered and eventually go on to The Last of Us Part 2 will be like, whoa, the difference here is night and day, and so Naughty Dog wanted to create this seamless experience, which I understand. I'm kind of tired of them making all these remasters or and pushing. We have this PlayStation 4 version. It works perfectly fine on my PS5. I mean, I played it. It's cross-gen, I guess. I'm able to play the PlayStation 4 version on my PS5, but I understand they want to do a seamless experience. But what better way to do that than by introducing some form of factions mode with this Last of Us Part 2 PlayStation 5 version? Will they do it? Only time will tell. But I think this article does a great job in reading my mind, because I do think, if not before, then during the Game Awards, this announcement, if true, or rather, this is not an announcement. I should just clarify. This is a leak. This is a little bit more than just a rumor, because these rumors have been floating around for a while now. I haven't covered it on this channel in depth, but this has been something that's been rumored for a while now, and now it's leaked. A data miner and leaker said, "Yeah, it's coming. Here we go. The Last of Us Part 2 for the PlayStation 5, a native version for the PlayStation 5 hardware is coming." And with that said, I speculate that Naughty Dog will either announce this before the Game Awards or during the Game Awards. But really, only time will tell. But I am really curious to know, for all those that are watching, do you support this? Do you, I love The Last of Us Part 2. I don't not support this, but I won't go out of my way to buy this unless there's a factions multiplayer mode included in this version, which is, in my opinion, 50-50. I really don't think Naughty Dog will do that, especially since they're allocating their time and effort to this dedicated faction standalone experience. I don't know if they have the resources to, or have had the resources to formulate a team to make a multiplayer component for the Last of Us Part 2 coming to PlayStation 5, especially with all the layoffs. I think Naughty Dog laid off, I want to say, maybe 30 people. I could be wrong. I'm not going to fact check that right now. But I know there was layoffs happening, and I don't know if they were significant to Naughty Dog and the development of the Last of Us factions and whatever else they're working on, but I think it was significant enough where it hurt a lot of people. And this is happening across the board. I mean, I think there was layoffs at Epic Games a couple of weeks ago as well. So this is really prevalent, not only in the games industry, but you look at the film industry and logistics and I mean, literally, just the economy in general is kind of bad. I'm not going to get into politics and economy right now, but the point is, I'm curious to know if you, the viewer, think that this is a great idea, that The Last of Us Part 2 should have its standalone PlayStation 5 native version for the PlayStation 5 hardware. And with that said, do you think that Naughty Dog will develop a kind of like multiplayer experience for those factions fans? Let me know all of that in the comment section below. And of course, with everything being said, I have been TheStarkz. Peace.